Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TMR's Master Advisor series. Today is October 12th, 2023. This is episode number 78. We have a very different episode than we usually do today, and we're going to get to that in just a second, but I want to make some announcements and reminders before we get started. I want to thank everyone who came out a couple of weeks ago to our last session with Vanessa McGovern. That was really an interesting episode for us. I was so happy we could get Vanessa to join us on the program and talk about some of the mental blocks that advisors have when transitioning to selling luxury travel. I just want to, we've had a string of great episodes, not just the Vanessa one, but Carrie Dyer from Burnell before her. I couldn't be more thankful for them for joining us and for all who attended and watched those episodes. For those who are interested in rewatching them or catching them for the first time, we're going to drop a link to our YouTube in the chat right now. That page is the home of all of our audio and video content. All the episodes going way back to 2020 are available there on demand for free. And I access every week, but going over there and subscribing or watching really does help us keep this community strong and bring you this content every couple of weeks. So if you have the time, head over there via that link that Tom dropped in the chat right now. Check out the content, subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And you're really doing a whole lot of help for us too. I also wanted to announce we will be back here in 2 weeks with an episode talking about selling villas. We're going to talk about exactly what kind of consumers opt to choose a villa over a hotel, what those situations might call for from an advisor, and how you can pitch it to your client. We're working on finalizing those details, but we should have the information for that out pretty soon. But we'll be back here October 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're interested in selling villas, you want to learn a little more about that, please keep an eye out for that. All right, so like I mentioned today, we're going to be doing something a little different that a few of our readers have asked for, a few of our guests on this show I've brought up. We're really happy and excited to have Sue Kitsemble from Apple Leisure Group Vacations here, both as our sponsor and our guest. Sue is a BDM with ALG Vacations. She's going to talk to us a little bit about how BDMs function, how travel advisors can best work for BDMs, what BDMs can do for you. We're going to answer some questions that were sent in before we started here today. And hopefully as we go along today, we'll be able to incorporate some more questions from the chat too. So I'm going to welcome Sue now. First of all, Sue, thank you so much for joining us. I know this is going to be an interesting topic, a tricky one for us to do. I know you're serving as both the sponsor and the guest. So I'm hoping right now we can welcome you as the sponsor for today's episode. And yeah, thanks so much for lending us your time. You just unmute. You're just on mute right now, Sue. Sorry. Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
First and foremost, thanks for having me. Happy to be representing ALG Vacations at the moment. So based on our topic today, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew who their BDM was. As you know, I represent 6 brands for ALG Vacations, and just for everybody to understand who ALG Vacations is, I represent Apple Vacations, FunJet Vacations, Travel Impressions, Southwest Vacations, United Vacations, and Blue Sky Tours. So as a company, we now have our very own dedicated page for VAX. It's the homepage. So if you go to aljvacations.com, you'll find that homepage now. You'll sign in with your regular VAX ID and your password. But if you put a slash after that, put BDM, you'll be able to locate your BDM for your particular area or your host agency that you work for. So that's most important, something we really needed for a long time. We just launched that in August. Another really important thing is our ALG Pro, our accreditation program. We launched that a year ago, almost a year ago to the day. And as a BDM, all of us took that course. We're all certified. And we were really at awe of the things that we learned. We all came back away saying that we learned 3 to 5 things that we didn't know. So it doesn't matter how long you've been on VAX, that is a really great tool to have. Moving forward for 2024, we will be asking agents to be certified to be invited to come to Ascend, which is a huge event that we're doing next week, as well as spam trips or industry events, educational events in your area. So please make sure that you get ALGV Pro certified. And then there's a few other tools that I'd like to reference, being our ALGV 360, which is our marketing tool. If you want to grow your business, I think that's really our topic today, working with your BDM, but that is really talking about growing your business. We also have a travel log, which is our digital brochure, and travel blog, which will help you if you're not familiar with destinations. You can get some really great content from that. And then ALGV 360 gives you social posts, videos, flyers, and you can put your logo on all of those materials. So thanks for joining today, and thanks for your support of ALG Vacations.
Yeah, and I know I see some names in the chat that I recognize or in the group in the call right now that I recognize that I know will be at Ascend next week too. So if they see you, Sue, hopefully they'll be able to say hello
Awesome.
down in Cancun next week. Thank you to Sue. Thank you to ALG Vacations for sponsoring this. This next part, the content, hopefully we're going to talk exclusively from a BDM's point of view rather than exclusively like an ALG Vacations point of view. I know there's going to be some overlap. We're going to do our best, and hopefully we can have a nice and have a worthwhile conversation. Before we go ahead, Sue, I know you mentioned who you're from ALG Vacations. I know you mentioned territories and the brands you represent, but I know you've also been in the travel industry for a long time. I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about your career in travel, what roles you served prior to where you are today.
Sure. So I think what gives me the greatest success in my position is the fact that I was a retail travel agent or an advisor for 18 years before I came to Apple Vacations, which then turned into Apple Leisure Group, which then evolved to Apple Leisure Group Vacations. I did have a pause during COVID, so I had an opportunity to work for a hotel chain, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So I've been able to see all the different aspects within the industry. So I did serve as a BDM there as well. And when I came back to ALGV last June of 22, it was great to be back. And I missed a lot during the pandemic, but I learned a lot as well. So it's helped me grow in my position.
I'm just curious, Sue, because you've had so many years in the industry, you sort of saw, especially ALG Vacations pre-COVID and post-COVID. Have you seen any significant changes or anecdotal changes within the agency community? Any trends that you see now when you're talking to agents, when you're talking to your partners that showcases exactly how things are changing within the agency channel?
Well, I feel for agents. I know that everybody was exhausted. It was a very exhausting experience. And I hope that all the different companies and tour operators, everybody did their best to make things even better coming out of it and make it so much easier. So I know technology, policies, procedures, all of those things have changed. So I hope that the agents feel it and know how hard everybody worked to do that.
Yeah. All right. All right. So I want to start off with some just basic questions. I know we have some new to the industry folks with us in here today. And I know a lot of the more veteran people will know a lot of these answers, but let's just start off basic questions, Sue. I mean, for those of advisors who might not be familiar, what does BDM stand for? And I guess what role do BDMs have within the agency channel?
Sure. So business development manager, almost every company has one. Some may put a little bit of a different title to it, but really it is about growing business. It's us working, building a relationship, understanding our customers' business, what their business model is, and then helping them to grow their business. That's the only way that we can grow our business. If they succeed, we succeed. We're all in that together, right? So that's
what other titles have you seen out there or have you experienced out there?
I mean, just business development, business. I mean, it usually has some type of a business word in it.
Yeah.
But a lot of companies have them. It just depends on how they want to put a twist on it.
All right. And then, like you said, your role is to help advisors and agency owners grow their business because that's the only way suppliers are able to grow their own business and grow their business specifically through the agency channel.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. And so relationship is so important. I feel that I need to understand your business because how can we grow the business unless I have a better understanding of where you are, what your goals are, you know, and look at the different ways that I can help you.
All right. Do you think that all advisors are aware of the role that BDMs can play in their business aside from simply solving problems? Because I know that's a lot of what BDMs do is solving issues and fixing real problems that advisors might experience. But do you think that all advisors are aware of exactly how you can move their business forward without simply solving the problems that come up?
I don't because when people sometimes call me, like this morning, I received a call and the person says, I hate to bother you. And if you're
Okay.
reaching out to me, it means you're giving my company business. So any BDM with any company would welcome that. They're reaching out to us. It means they're giving us business. So please don't ever feel like you're bothering a BDM by any
Okay.
means.
All right. All right. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about those questions about how you can help build a business. But I do want to talk about those questions, those problems first, because I know that's the top of mind for a lot of advisors. What are the most common problems that come to you from your partners, Sue? And then what kind of solutions can you typically provide for them?
So I think the biggest thing is communication in many cases, or just an advisor not knowing where to go within a company for what. You know, they don't know what resources that they have within a company. So as a business development manager, you would want to make sure that any of your customers, my advisors, I would want to make sure that they know exactly who to go to for what. And that makes their life so much easier. But I also feel if somebody has to make more than two phone calls or more than two emails, if that means something's just not getting through in the communication, I would want them to reach out to me, let me get involved so we can figure it out and get it to the right department for a quick resolution.
All right. So never consider their inquiries, they should never consider their questions a bother to you. That's what your role
Correct.
is. All right,
Correct.
perfect. All right. All right. Let's talk about that communication. I know a lot of advisors, this is a common thing they think about with their own clients, how they're communicating, what the best form of communication is. For you, Sue, for other BDMs maybe that you've experienced or you have relationships with your colleagues, what's the best form of communication to use when working with a BDM?
Well, and I mean, just to kind of go back to what we do. So we're multitaskers. I don't have the convenience of just sitting behind a desk all day long. I call on accounts personally. I do events. I do trainings. I travel a bit. We do fam trips. You know, we can be moving constantly. So for me, if somebody emails me and I'm in another country or I'm on the road and I just have 15 minutes to go through my emails, it's so easy for me to forward their concern to the right resource for them to get a resolution, even though I'm traveling.
Okay. So email is probably the best way to, okay. All right.
Definitely.
Is there any tips on, I know I've had conversations with advisors in the past who have had difficulty, and I'm not saying you're in this group, Sue, but with some responsiveness when it comes to BDMs, is particularly if there is an issue. I mean, any tips on getting noticed when you are, if you do want to stick to email, any tips on getting noticed and making sure you're able to get some communication going?
Sure. So a few tips that I would suggest is one, have a booking number. I mean, that's our only
Okay.
resource to resolve an issue. So we definitely need a booking number. If you could put that in the subject line, that's even better. Please don't just forward us an email for us to try to guess what you need. At least put some bullet points. If you want to send us the whole trail, that's okay. But if you could just put some simple bullet points of what you need, and I know you're frustrated, and I want to hear what happened eventually, but we're more about just getting the problem solved, and then we can backtrack to see where we can fix it so that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard that. Put a booking number in the subject line. That does seem like something that would catch your eye pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
All right. What about, I know again, advisors are creatures of habit, but also not creatures of habit. And I know they like to be different in how they communicate. What about some of the less effective forms of communication? Have you had experience with some of your partners that maybe they want to reach you on something, on a form of communication that you maybe thought wasn't the most appropriate or wasn't the most effective place to reach you?
Yeah. So I'm okay with text. However, I can't really forward a text to a department within my company, but probably the biggest sore spot with all of my colleagues, and we talk about it collectively when we're all together, is getting a message from Facebook Messenger. Because once again, we can't be looking at multiple sources to try to communicate with our company, and I can't forward a message from Messenger to my company. You know, it would take a lot for me to transfer it and transfer it and transfer it. So if you really want me to help you quickly, honestly, email is your best form of communication.
All right, that's perfect. All right. All right, so I go ahead, sorry.
And sorry, Dan. And one thing I will say is I do know that many BDMs do even put it on their Facebook page for advisors not to messenger them.
Okay. All right. So I have a few more questions too, and then we did ask for some questions pre-call today. I'm going to go through those at the second half of this episode. And again, I know there's about 100 advisors. There's a little more than 100 advisors in here. So if anyone has questions for Sue about BDM relationships in general, you can drop them in the chat, and hopefully we can grab them as we go along today. So we spoke about you tackling issues for advisors. I was hoping you could share some of the more uncommon things that you might be able to do for advisors, some things that you maybe add to their business that they don't necessarily think about, that maybe they should start thinking about now when they want to start growing their business in the future.
Sure. Well, I know that post-pandemic, we've had accounts that really weren't familiar with, you know, they're selling products that they never sold before. So I know that they're reaching out to multiple companies, be it if it's tour operators, cruise lines, things like that. And it's really them getting to know the business. So I have such a wealth of knowledge of business development managers for hotel chains that are in the area that can help do one-on-one trainings with them. So it's a circle, right? We all work together. So even though I'm a tour operator, so many hotel partners work with us. Getting advisors training on areas that they might need. Now, you might be VAC certified, but we offer many other trainings as well as all the other companies. So, you know, you have a wealth of resources that I can provide, even marketing, you know, help with marketing, having professionals help you with social marketing. What are the do's and don'ts?
All right. So we have a couple questions in the chat, and one from Terry I was actually on top of my mind to ask next, but let's tackle this one from Marlo first. Marlo's a brand new agent too, and she wants to know, which we addressed a little bit, but are BDMs just for solving problems, or can we reach out to them if we need help with trying to book something for a client?
So Marlo, we would love it if you reached out to your BDM and said, I want to grow my business. How can I do that? They will make an appointment, schedule an appointment, take the time to sit with you and put a plan together, honestly.
I mean, the way you're talking about it, Sue, it seems like advisors should look at this like a partnership. I know the word partner or partnership is thrown around a lot in the industry, but it does seem like this is one of the more appropriate use cases for that kind of word.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we're here for. I don't mind helping solve problems, but my greatest joy is watching people be successful.
And this one from Terry, which I think is interesting too, because I know a lot of advisors have the mindset, particularly if they're new and they have maybe lower sales volume, that they might not get the attention they necessarily need. But Terry asks, do new agents get the same attention as agents with a higher sales volume?
So it really depends, Terry, on how much time that you want to invest. Again, it's when I meet with an account for the first time, I ask you as the advisor, what are your expectations of me? I have accounts that want to see me quarterly. I have accounts that want to talk to me monthly. Whatever you want, I'm happy to schedule my schedule to work along with you. It's that easy, honestly.
All right, perfect. All right. All right. So we talked about communication, the worst forms, the best forms. Any other communication tips aside from email being particularly the best channel to use, having the booking number handy? Anything else, Sue, that you can share with us to make the channel of communication as effective as possible between you and an advisor?
Sending to multiple departments or multiple people. Nobody knows who has ownership of that. So really starting out with your BDM first would be your best resource for sure.
What about just general? I mean, you mentioned having the booking number. Don't forward these long chains where you have to go digging for the problem. I mean, what about in terms of how much information do you need to know from an advisor, particularly when there's a problem? Because that seems to be where most of these questions are coming from.
So when I have, if I'm sitting at a desk where I have my computer with me or a device with me that I can pull up a booking number, I can read all the notes and see everything for that booking. When I'm on the road, I am a little blind, but I do have internal people that can do that, as far as, maybe pulling up everything and seeing everything. So really just getting to the point of what you need, what happened, or, where you think something isn't right, and we can figure it out from there.
All right. So use your email, have the booking number handy, and then keep it simple as possible. And that's going to be the most effective way. All right.
If I get 4 or 5 paragraphs, it's really hard for me to decipher. I understand when you're frustrated, sometimes you get very emotional, but that doesn't help us to resolve the issue. I do want to come back and have a conversation with you, but let's resolve the issue first, and then we can figure out where the error came in or what happened so that we can prevent it from in the future.
All right, perfect. All right, so we answered Terry's question about new agents maybe having a different frame of mind than more veteran agents. I want to ask about the veteran agents, Sue. What would you say to the more veteran advisors who think that they've sold so much of your product and think that maybe you can't do much to help them with an already very established business?
I've seen examples personally of people thinking they can't be at a top tier or at a level with a company that they're highly recognized as one of the top. So I've seen them succeed by cheering them on, by helping them, by developing ideas of how they can grow their business. That's what a business development manager does. It's not just here's one aspect of the company that you can sell. I mean, so many companies now are so broad-based and very destinations. So people have a lot of opportunities to grow if they want to grow. If they don't want to grow, that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
All right. All right. So we have one more in the chat we're gonna grab now. So we have a question from Rachel, Sue, and I guess she wants to know the difference between the role and relationship between a travel advisor and their BDMs versus sales account managers and BDMs. I mean, the thread we were on before, you suggested that always stick to your BDM first, but what about these other people that do have some involvement in the role of a travel agent? And any advice for that?
So I would say, I mean, the business development manager is in charge of the account to do that, but on the sales side, if it's somebody internal that they work with, that's great. I mean, I think that they're there to support us and to support the agent internally, but externally is where the business development manager, I think, would be of more value if they really want to grow their business.
All right. So I have one more for you, Sue, and then I think we're going to get into some that were sent in prior to today. I know you've spent a lot of years working with the agents in your career, and I'm sure you've come across some really successful, incredible agencies. I'm just curious if you have any tidbits that you can share with us about how those agencies did things differently. Are there any traits or anything that the most successful agencies possess that maybe others don't? Anything that you can share with us, particularly for a lot of the new agents that are with us today?
Sure, sure. There's different goals that people can reach, be it if it's a level with the company that they're recognized, through rewards, but also if you want to grow your business to earn extra commission, a business development manager is great in helping you set goals and you making your goals. But I have so many success stories, but a few that come to mind that are more recent is an agent that found her niche. She started selling weddings, and it just, all of a sudden she started getting wedding after wedding, and she got very involved in social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and really started using feedback from her own clients and experiences, getting very creative with her marketing, where she found somebody out in LA that reached out to her to do a wedding. And LA is the entertainment capital of the world, right? So all of a sudden, this inner circle has exploded for her. And she is doing so many weddings a year that she has started to have to turn them down. But what the great news is about it is her husband now has quit his job. He now works full time with her, and now they can expand their business even more. So a truly great success story. Because of her business flourishing, because she does so many groups, she has designated certain hotel chains that she likes to work with, has become very familiar. That's where BDM comes in. We can introduce you to people at the hotel that once you get in a groove and get to work together, you can send group after group knowing that your groups are going to be taken care of. That's what a BDM can do for you. But her business has exploded. She's being recognized by several different hotel chains and gets a top honors, reward trips and all these accolades from them as well. So pretty cool story for sure.
Yeah, that is incredible. And I know people use the term like overnight success a lot, and that definitely is an overnight success because she has been working for a number of years. But I have heard a lot of those stories where things seem to improve so quickly once you sort of get on this wave of figuring out where exactly your business can grow and where you can find new clients, things like that. So it's always nice hearing those stories.
And just myself, Dan, having a conversation, sometimes I'll hear an advisor tell me something that I'll say, wait, this is where my company can really help you grow in that area. And I've seen successes with that. A one-person agency that never thought could hit one of the highest levels or do over $1 million in business has done it. And It's just amazing, and still has time for her own life. So a BDM is really important in hitting those milestones.
All right. So let's get into these questions, and we won't get to them all that were sent in. But first of all, thank you so much for everyone who did take the time to send in your questions. And again, I know Sue is from ALG Vacations. Hopefully, this conversations will be about just in general, because I know a lot of these, I can tell reading these questions, a lot of them are very specific issues that people are having with BDMs at a vast range of suppliers. All right, so let's start with this one. This is from an advisor who said, I've been having trouble getting in touch with or responses from BDMs of suppliers I am new to working with. What is the best way to not only establish those new contacts, but also maintain regular communication?
So disappointing to hear. If you have reached out to your BDM and they're not responding to you, I would probably say that you should inquire who they report to if after a couple of attempts they don't. But make sure that your subject line is interesting to them. Say that you want to meet with them, you want to grow your business with them, you want to establish a relationship. I could not see a business development manager not wanting to do that.
All right. So here's another one, and we were just talking about groups, so this one sort of fits in with that conversation. This advisor says, for a group, I often need financial assistance for advertising. What are the parameters to get assistance, as I am sure your budget is not limitless? And again, Sue, I know this might seem like a personal question for ALG Vacations, but just in general, like your experience in the industry, what kind of advice would you give this person?
Sure. So the business development manager would be the person to reach out to. Every company is different if they do or do not allow funds to go towards a group. There are many opportunities, I think, industry-wide when you're working with groups for advisors to earn extra commission that can maybe offset those expenses. So we can really discuss it in a lot of, I mean, if a company has funds, great. If not, we can be creative. We can work something out to help offset those costs or help them to earn enough revenue to pay that.
Yeah, a lot of these questions, including the next one I'm going to ask, they seem to come with the assumption that reaching out to you is going to be a bother to you. But like you said in the beginning, this is a partnership, and this is what your role is in this sort of chain of travel.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, Dan, I don't have a magic wand.
Yeah,
And I don't have red slippers that I can just make things go away. I wish I could, but I have a lot of resources to try to help agents as much as we possibly can. But it really depends on the parameters of the company. It depends on cost. There's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to helping with problems, right?
Yeah. All right. So speaking of problems, this was another question from a attendee today. This is a little different one. This advisor wants to know, what problems should we not ask a BDM for help with?
Well, if there's a problem, the word problem to me, you need to go to your BDM. Unless you feel that there is a resource within the company that you can go to yourself. But a problem, I mean, we're there for problems too. A lot of companies have a true inside sales support that you can go to. I would say that would be your first person, your first touch point with the company. And then if they can't or they don't respond, which I can't imagine, then you can go to your BDM.
I mean, Sue, are there any issues that you get presented with that maybe aren't appropriate for a BDM or aren't appropriate for someone at all? Like I can't imagine, because you have built relationships with advisors throughout the years, especially the ones you're working with on a consistent basis. I imagine that you do get a lot of questions or concerns that maybe aren't the best. You're not the best contact to reach out to.
Right. So maybe a client has just returned from a trip, bought something outside the country, gets home, gets their charge card, and they are not happy that they either overpaid or whatever the circumstances are. I can't help them if they were shopping or if they signed an agreement with the hotel. I mean, I wish that I could get somebody to go and help them, but that becomes very difficult usually.
All right. All right. So I see a couple questions in the chat. Those are just, I think both those are very specific to ALG Vacations, and hopefully Tom on our team can maybe get Terry the answer she's looking for. We're going to grab another one that came in pre-chat today. All right, so this one sort of builds off our earlier conversation, Sue. This advisor writes, we have a long list of complaints about BDMs, but it's a two-way street. How can we as agents be good partners for our BDM?
I think just really reaching out to them. I know sometimes agents, this is a very emotional business. Advisors are very attached to their clients. There's a personal relationship, right? And I get that. I did that for 18 years. So I remember the sleepless nights. So usually when somebody has a pretty big problem that we're working on, the first thing I tell them is make sure you sleep tonight. I mean, this, we're working on it. We will do the best of our ability to fix this for you. But I think not yelling. I think just having a conversation, just reaching out to your BDM, being fair to them. I'm the middle person. I represent the company. I don't make the policies, the rules, the decision making. Some of the decision making is not up to me. You could tell me how disappointed you are. I will definitely pass that along. BDMs are the eyes and ears of the travel community. So I know every single company requires we do some kind of reporting. some type of communication to let them know what the pulse is out there. What are you hearing a lot of on a consistent basis? And you will have one-offs. You will have some strange things happen, but you want to definitely make leadership aware of it as well.
Yeah.
So.
What about, I mean, this is a conversation we've had with advisors speaking with communication with their clients, but what about threading that needle between over communicating and under communicating? I mean, any advice on that? Because I imagine you do get advisors who are on either end of that spectrum.
So, I mean, personally, I think,
Yeah.
you just have some people that just have a lot of questions. They just, maybe they don't understand. Many times it's they don't want to take the time for the resources that these companies have. They don't want to take the time to read things, so they'll come to their BDM instead, or they don't like an answer that they're getting from a company, so they'll reach out to their BDM. I'm happy to help anybody at any time. I just would hope that they would try to use some of the resources that we have first, but if they don't, I'm happy to help them.
Okay. All right.
Our
All
company
right.
is part, we all try to be kind to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. Everyone who knows the reputation of ALG Vacations knows that. All right, so I have a few more, Sue, and then again, if anyone else has any other questions, this is the first time we've had a BDM on, and I know other people might have questions. You can drop them in the chat. We will have some time at the end. So this goes back to the communication, and forgive me, Sue, if it's simply repeating what we said before, but this is another question about communication. This advisor writes, how do we contact a BDM and actually get a response? I've reached out to BDMs from several companies. However, I rarely get a reply to my questions. Is there a specific headline that needs to be in the subject line to help filter out the spam mail for the BDM? And I know we talked about putting the booking number, but even this seems like a question somebody who maybe hasn't booked yet and might have questions for BDM. Any tips on that?
Well, I would say, if there's an auto response from the BDM, maybe they are offering an inside support or some other resources for them to go to first. Again, if it's about building business, growing business, a BDM should definitely reach out to them. If not, they can contact the inside sales team for assistance, and they can inform them that they're not hearing back from their BDM. It's disappointing to hear.
What about simply finding an email? I know each supplier, each company will be vastly different in where they list contact details, but any tips on just finding someone's email if they want to start having a conversation?
As far as I know, almost every company has a source of Contact Us right on their website, and they usually have all the sales team and business development teams listed.
Okay. All right. So this next one is a question about, again, the partnership. And this agent writes, what commitment do you need from our agency for you to commit to a partnership with us?
That is a great question. We have no threshold. Any commitment is a commitment. I do goal planning with all of my accounts each and every year. And I don't care if you want to increase by 2,000, 20,000, 200,000, or 2 million. I am here to support you and help you. And I know any BDM or of any company, any type of business would welcome any kind of business growth.
Okay. All right. So I see we have a couple in the chat. I think we're going to grab these two, and then we're going to wrap up today. This first one from Natasha Sue. This is, I guess, I know this is going to be specific supplier to supplier, so this might be a difficult one to answer, but she says, what is the best professional way to ask about negotiating commission levels, especially if you're not with a large host? And she says, I know this is a slippery slope, but I imagine those are conversations that do get brought up throughout the industry. Yeah,
for sure. And that's part of goal setting. So when you're, sitting down and having a business discussion, those are things, if it's a goal, obviously business has to do with commission. The more business you give, the higher commission you can get. And every company has thresholds. We have goals. I know the cruise lines all offer goals. Everybody can sit down with, an advisor, an agency owner, and you can plan that out very easily. Typically, most companies want to review that quarterly, so you would have to hit your thresholds on a quarterly basis.
Right. And just this last one from Marla. She says, do we reach out to every BDM for every supplier if we are new just to introduce ourselves? And then she has a second part too we can grab after.
Well, you can if you want to learn about that company and see how you can grow your business. But if you're working in a niche, many agents found out during the pandemic that they like selling certain things and they're very successful, and they don't necessarily want to sell the world or invest time on doing one trip once in a lifetime that takes a lot of their time that they can't be selling to other clients. Efficiency is so important right now. And I think your BDMs are your best resource to show you how to be most efficient as well within their company, either by their technology or the resources that they have, or the education that they can provide. So taking advantage of those things. If you're brand new in the industry and you're just trying to find yourself, then yes, reach out to as many BDMs as you can, but you want to schedule a call and give them the time to, speak with you. So make sure that you show up for those appointments that you make with them. It's really important. I know I've had people set appointments with me and then I don't, I try calling them or we're doing a Teams call and they don't show up. Really disappointing.
Yeah, and I think you might have answered the second part for her questions, but yeah, she just wanted to know how to choose which ones would be best to reach out to based on our clients' needs, because there's so many, it can be overwhelming. But like you mentioned, just figure out what your business is, who you're catering to, who's going to be the most effective or most useful.
And Dan, the other thing is support your preferred suppliers within your consortiums or your host. I mean, you definitely want to do that because it's a win-win for everybody. You're going to earn higher commissions. There might be recognition. So preferred suppliers are very, very important. And you can do that in any aspect of business: cruise lines, hotels, DMCs, all of it.
And then again, there's two more here about finding a BDM, but like we talked about before, usually the suppliers should make that information readily available on their website, on their trade portal, right?
Usually if you do a /BDM with most companies, you can find they have a listing for that company. If not, contact the inside sales or sales department of that particular company, and they will be able to direct you to who your BDM is.
All right. Well, first of all, Sue, I want to thank you. I said in the beginning of the conversation, but this was really a tricky one for us. We were really excited to do it, but we knew it was going to be tricky. And I think you were a perfect guest for us to have. I do want to ask you, because I've had this conversation with agents who've been in the business and have developed these relationships with their clients, but I imagine you've developed some pretty strong relationships with advisors you've been partners with for all these years. Like, does it feel like you have like a second family with the people you are their BDM? Like, does it feel like those kind of relationships are very strong with you?
It's amazing. I mean, to see babies born or little toddlers that were in the office when I first started, and now they've graduated from college and they've gone on to do other things or taking over their parents' travel agency or business, is just incredible. So yeah, I've been to weddings, anniversary parties, graduations. It's amazing. During the pandemic in particular, I mean, those friendships are just so endearing to me. It's amazing that we're so fortunate to work in an industry where you can have connections all over the world, right? It's really incredible. And I don't think a lot of other people can say that in their business life.
Yeah. Well, again, I really appreciate your time, your candor, your information you gave us today. And thanks for everyone who attended, everyone who sent questions in. It really helped us formulate this discussion. And just a reminder, we will be back in a couple of weeks with the talk about villas. But again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, ALG Group Vacations. I hope everyone stays healthy and safe, and I'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.